Hi, this is Aaron McManus, and you are listening to the Battle Ready podcast, and I'm here with my incredible father.
Oh, I was dad last episode, but I'm back to father.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I see a few things. You're wearing new Mosaic home team merch for conference that's happening tomorrow.
Tomorrow we have our Mosaic one-day conference all day long.
Is it too late to sign up and get access to?
Absolutely not. In fact, this couple DM'd me from Mexico. They said, hey, we want to go. We can't afford to go. Is there any way we could do some work to pay up, make the difference for the fee?
But there is a free option.
And I told them, hey, it's a recommended registration, but it's free to everyone who cannot afford it. So just register and come and enjoy it. I just sent a message to some friends in Singapore and said, hey, access this, get on it. So if you can't afford it, just register and join us. But don't miss our Mosaic One Day Conference on Saturday.
Yeah, we put a monetary value on it because we do believe things have value, and
That's
we
right.
should pay for things if you can. And obviously this is a trying time with COVID. Go for free, or fill your house with people and pay the group fee, but at the end of the day, or give afterwards.
Or if you have tons of income, give way more than the registration
way more
fee.
and register your whole town.
Yeah, and I think some of it is that we actually have a value for valuing work.
Yes.
So we never say things are free because they're never free. I mean, someone else has paid for it.
Yeah, and you say that too, and we have, it stems from the fact that we have a really young church. And so if we gave away everything for free, we would be giving away the value of an understanding of what paying for something that actually is incredible value.
We would also be creating a dependency in an unhealthy culture where people feel that everything should be free in life rather than I should actually value my own development, my own growth enough to pay for things that make me better.
Right. So I love it. You're wearing some, I'm wearing some. They're actually going to paint these. And so these will look a bit different, which is kind of cool. So check it out. MosaicConference.com, says my boss in the corner. And there's going to be some clothing. I'm sure it'll be attached to the link. So talking about getting everything for free, should we go straight into universal healthcare, or should we go easy today?
I think we should probably save that conversation, which is a really important one, for another podcast.
Oh, like a different podcast entirely, or can we do it here on Battle Ready?
Right here on Battle Ready,
Okay.
but a different episode. Because right now, I have post-election exhaustion, and we still don't really know who our president is, although we have a sense of who it may be. And I think today's episode is pretty much where are we now? What are you feeling? What are we seeing? What are we hearing? What's going on? And both from just a practical level in terms of the politics that's going on, but also on a human level, what are people feeling? What are the reactions?
We have had an overwhelming response from the last episode, handling disappointment. Mm-hmm. And one, I think you brought such brilliance to the conversation.
And you brought such courage
to
the conversation.
The response has been immense, overwhelming. So many emails, so many comments, so many shares, so many DMs. People are disagreeing, but disagreeing with such kindness.
And respect.
Yeah. And I think we're doing something really different here on the podcast, where we're disagreeing, reserving the right to change our minds. We're disagreeing with permission. And I think we're doing it in such a way that it's genuinely it's genuinely creating a new culture, which I think is so, so cool. With that said, in the responses, something that I keep seeing is, I was going to the voting booth and had so much anxiety. I was going to the voting booth and I'm in turmoil. I'm stressed out. I do not know who to vote for. What do I do? And I think a lot of it were people just kind of venting and saying the podcast helped so much, even though we definitely did not tell people how to vote. I think we talked about our inner turmoil of voting in this conversation. So to continue the conversation but make a different one, where should we go from here? Where do we go from here? They haven't announced a winner.
Yeah, and I love what you said last time, that we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to teach you how to think.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful.
Did I say that, or did you say that?
No, you said that.
I said that? I said it?
I have to pull that clip.
Amazing.
And
I felt good today.
For the last several presidential elections, the voting booth was in our garage. Our entire community would vote
Yeah.
at our house.
The mayor of LA.
The mayor of Los Angeles would vote in our house, and all the really fascinating Hollywood celebrities that live near us would come and vote at our house, and I would usually not be there, but Kim would be there hosting, and so she would see all these people, and the mayor would always be the first person voting. This year was different because of COVID, so they moved.
Did they do it in our neighborhood still?
They moved it to different locations.
Like schools and stuff.
Yeah, so we had to go somewhere else, and but we've always had a little bit of, pride as citizens that our home was used as the place where people would vote. And it's fascinating when you think about that you are hosting people to vote at your home who are voting for your candidate, against your candidate, who hold your positions, who hate your positions.
It's interesting.
And it's a neighborhood experience. And yeah, I got to say, I'm really tired. I mean, I'm exhausted. I stayed up till 3 a.m. On election eve. And of course, I was finishing the manuscript for my next book while I was watching all the political updates. And I was going back and forth, mostly between CNN and Fox, a little bit of MSNBC, but a lot of MSNBC paralleled CNN. So I felt like I could just go between CNN and Fox and see what the two different perspectives were. And it is really fascinating to think that the era where objective news is gone. And
it's absolutely gone. You have to change the channel to get a different perspective.
Yeah, so I'm not watching anybody for objectivity.
No.
I'm watching CNN to know how everyone who's praying and hoping that Biden wins is reading the election. And I'm going over to Fox to see how everyone who's praying and hoping that Trump wins is seeing the election. And then I'm just going back and forth trying to make sense of it. Because what's interesting to me is that it's not even about opinions. It's how they're interpreting data. I mean, even the interpretation of data is tainted and skewed and affected by a person's values, their worldview, their positions, their policies. And so maybe there never was a time of objective journalism. Maybe we just didn't know. But I think the era of objective journalism is pretty much gone.
It's been gone, I think, for a little bit.
For quite a while.
Yeah.
And but there's so much going on right now with, I guess there's already cases that are being filed for the Supreme Court. And there are already like, I listened to Joe Biden's speech on
It's not Supreme Court yet.
Not yet?
Just the courts.
They filed lawsuits in a couple states.
Michigan.
Though some, like I think the one in Georgia has been dismissed already.
There's one in Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada and Wisconsin. I think
in Wisconsin.
The Trump campaign is asking for a recount. Yeah, Pennsylvania, they're trying to stop the counting right now. Right. Because there's such amount of mail-in ballots.
Yeah, and so I listened to both candidates. I listened to Joe Biden speak that night, and I stayed up and listened to President Trump speak, which was very, very late. It was incredibly late when he finally
Are you talking about election day or election night?
Election night.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was after midnight or somewhere like that. It was pretty late.
It was almost 3 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, it was the latest presidential update I think that has ever been given. And so there's a lot going on right now, and I've been trying to pay attention and listen to people. But on the broader level, I'm going to go back to dealing with disappointment in that how we react in this moment is really important. You know, how you respond both as a winner and a loser. I guess I'll just use that kind of language, right? You know, and because I think I just saw this this quote from AOC that said, "Why do we listen to people who lost?" And it just literally popped up on my iPhone, and my answer is because that's how you create a healthy democracy. Because when the Republicans were in charge, they really should have been listening to the people who lost. And that's how you create a better society, how you create a better democracy. And so my question, I guess, right now would be...
Can I ask a question to AOC? No, you asked the question first, though.
No, my question there would be, AOC, the reason you listen to people who lost is because you will not always win. And how you treat the people who lost will have a significant effect and impact on how they treat you when you lose.
But that is the point, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It is how you lose and how you treat the winner and how you win and you treat the loser.
Right?
If you can if we can bridge that gap, we will evolve as a country and as a species in a way we have never seen before. But to AOC, my question is, why do we listen to you? You've never done your job before.
Can I give you the full quote?
Sure.
So that her full quote
yes,
was,
of course.
Why do we listen to people who lost elections as if they are experts in winning elections?
Yes, because they have won elections.
Yeah, potentially.
See, so what she's saying is actually more inaccurate because the people who lost the election haven't lost every election. They actually won an election that no one thought they would win. And then you have senators who also did win the election in the party that lost the presidency. And you have people in the House who actually flipped seats in the House that were Republican, even though the White House lost it. So to put it in black and white issues like there's a losing and a winning, a loser and a winner, is not even an accurate assessment of our political reality. Would you say that's fair, Brian?
Yeah, not accurate.
And so what I would say is we listen to AOC because she was elected by her district. That's why we listen.
She did win an election.
She won an election.
Two, she was reelected.
But AOC wouldn't have listened to Trump just because he won an election. So just winning an election doesn't really, in a sense, give you the credibility to be heard by everyone.
Yes.
And that's why losing an election doesn't take away your credibility from being heard.
Yeah.
And we need to stop pretending this is an all or nothing kind of contest. I mean, one of the things that really struck me, and maybe it's because I live in LA and in California, is I'm shocked that the election has been so close.
Yeah.
Same, to be honest. I thought it would go one way or the other.
Right.
Landslide.
So, and I think the Democrats genuinely believed it would be like a blue wave. And I don't know if I can say this, but like President Trump is not an incredibly likable candidate, like as a person.
We can all agree on this.
You said you detest the man, but
I said I didn't like him. I just voted for him because at the point you want to listen to why I voted. You can listen to last episode.
Well, my whole point of this is that you couldn't have a candidate on the Republican side who could be more unlikable in the way he approaches people, issues, lack of empathy, and yet the election is still a narrow victory. If it's a victory for Vice President Joe Biden.
But you could say it on the other side too, because when have we seen, other than I actually really do like former Vice President Joe Biden. Do you just call him Vice President Biden?
I did, but I was just...
No, I'm saying, do you? I don't know the proper... I think you just call him Vice President Joe Biden. He's a very likable human being. I don't agree with his policies, but like as a human being, he's very likable. The thing that you could parallel is that he barely campaigned. He barely gave speeches.
I told my wife I've never seen someone win the presidency without campaigning for it. This is the first time.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable. If Joe Biden is the next president of the United States, it is remarkable.
So my whole point, and I think that's why AOC's quote is relevant to our conversation today, is that it's Friday for the podcast, so we have some sense of who's going to win, but we don't have certainty yet. And so I want to leave some room for...
So if something happens in the next 24 hours, we'll talk about it Tuesday.
It could change the context of our conversation. But what I would say is, even if, assuming Joe Biden wins the election, America's clearly split about which candidate they were supporting. And I think a lot of people voted for Joe Biden, whereas they said to me they were actually voting against Donald Trump, not necessarily for Joe Biden.
They voted for the other guy.
And a lot of people voted for Donald Trump, even though they didn't really want to vote for him as a person. And I think we should step back. I think the Democrats, if they hold the presidency, should step back and go, what are we missing in the conversation? Where should we be paying attention? Just like that's what Republicans should have been doing while they held power. How you hold power says more about you than how you even respond without power.
I want to talk about doors closing and opening and how we can see doors opening and closing in our lives and how we can kind of connect that to what's going on, I think, now, because whoever loses will have to identify that a gigantic door has closed.
Right.
But before it, there are some weird conspiracy things happening, and I don't want to make this show about that. But I have friends in Arizona, we have friends in Wisconsin,
yes,
friends in Nevada. Actually, my childhood best friends in Nevada. But I have friends in Arizona who said their ballots were canceled.
Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and just go into the deep darkness of conspiracy for a few minutes because it's interesting and a little bit fun.
It's definitely interesting and fun because where do you go from here? Because you have both sides. You have Bernie Sanders. I woke up this morning and watched this video, which I actually really like Bernie Sanders. I do not like his policies. So if you're listening and you're like, well, you said this, but now you're this. No, but he's a very entertaining human being. I wish he was my grandpa. 100%.
And he has honest convictions.
He does.
And I really respect people who are honest about what they're
even if I completely disagree, I'm like, I like
that they know who you are and what you're running for. And I don't have to wonder if I voted for you or didn't vote for you if I misunderstood you.
We understand. And we said no, but we still like you as a person. He said this thing. He said, we knew President Trump was going to do this. He was going to fight. He wasn't going to give up power. He was going to do this whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, but on the same side, President Trump has said from the beginning, they're going to steal the election. They're going to cancel ballots. They're going to do shady things in the polls. And so it's really interesting to see because now I have friends in Arizona who literally said they were provided with the wrong pen at the vote-in booths. That they were provided with Sharpies, not black pens. And they said, is this what we're supposed to use? They said, yes, this is what you're supposed to use. And so you have that and you're like in a red neighborhood, in a red district, which I imagine this stuff happens on both sides. But it is interesting when you have Wisconsin who has more voters voting for Biden than have registered to vote. How does that work?
I haven't seen that conspiracy.
Have you not seen it in Wisconsin?
Not as conspiracy. I saw the numbers up on one of the newscasts.
I'll pull it up too.
But I think here's one of the things I told Kim is this is going to be so good for our country because by the next election we're going to have a really clean election process, and I don't know. I have a sense of confidence that whoever actually won will be declared the winner. I have to say I was so disappointed in Donald Trump when he got up there and basically on election night said, "There's all this cheating going on. They're trying to steal the election." That part of me, that's just a man. I'm just like I'm not talking as a pastor or as a theologian or anything like that. As a man, I thought, come on, you got to have more dignity than that. You have to stand in this moment teaching people how to win and how to lose. That was my immediate thought, just man-to-man kind of moment where I thought, you have to stand there and say, we gave it our best shot, and we respect the democratic process of our nation. We believe in our system, and yes, we're going to question places where there's a margin of error because that's a part of what you're supposed to do to protect the people that are voting. But when you become president, you're never over the law; you're under the law. So I was actually disappointed in his response, and I felt what he said was really destructive to our democratic process and to our society.
It was also very good that people on the far right were ripping him for it. Like it was good that Ben Shapiro came out and was like, this is very, very wrong and you look crazy and all these things.
Yeah.
I want to fact check myself. It was just a rumor. They're figuring it out, the Wisconsin thing. But you hear stuff like this, and I just say I reserve the right to change my mind and also be fact checked by Brian. So hopefully he cuts me out and makes me look less dumb.
But I saw that too on the news, so it's interesting.
And we also watch all the news. We're not watching. We pretty adamantly switch between CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC.
And that's why I take all the news with a grain of salt because I know I'm being manipulated by somebody.
And you hear stuff, and so no. But with that said, I like it. But the Arizona thing, I literally have screenshots of the Arizona thing, though.
But I'm glad you brought it up because our whole nation is being manipulated right now on both ends. And I just heard this. I guess they asked. I think it was the California health expert. When is there going to be an end to the quarantine? They said, well, would only be after the election. And I thought, well, wait a minute. What does the election have to do with quarantines? And
is the quarantine contingent upon the election? In the quote, sounds like it, but
this is an interesting thing too, though, because I have friends that are international now that are saying, yeah, everything's shutting back down, but we'll see what happens after November 3rd, November 4th. And I'm like, even people from other countries, from UK, Europe, are going, and Australia are going, no, we know what's going on. Something's going on in the US and it's affecting the entire world. Not to say there wasn't something going on that was actually real, but it does feel very politically connected to what is happening in our country right now.
And I just want to say that if electing Joe Biden as president will bring an end to the quarantine, I'm so happy.
Hey, where's that? What's the website with I voted for Joe Biden? Because I'm going to give myself a hat.
I'm voting against COVID and against the quarantine as much as possible. And today I had a conversation with a doctor, and they're not just a physician. They own a medical center and they oversee a retirement center. And one of the things they were talking about, and the doctor's wearing double masks, so they're being super responsible and very careful. And they said, I have seen people die from COVID. And she said in the retirement center, there was about 10% of the people who died.
That's so sad.
And she said, we had a couple of issues. Our mayor, our city tried to force COVID patients who were senior adults back into the nursing homes, even though they knew they had COVID, and they were forcing them back into the nursing homes and forcing the nursing homes to take them. And they said, we fought it. And fortunately, in our place, we were able to fight it and stop it.
And keep them like in hospitals?
But that's what happened in hospitals, because in hospitals, you're isolated and you're quarantined, which is what happened to New York. If my understanding is correct, that the senior adults who had COVID they were sent back to the nursing homes, and they forced nursing homes to take them. But the other thing she did say was, even though 10% of our patients have died of COVID, all of them were people who were on the thin thread of life and death. That they were not people who you were shocked or surprised that something could actually be fatal. And some of them had other significant health issues that they might have died this year anyway. And so here's a doctor saying, I've seen the actual effect of it, but I also know that when we're writing COVID, it's not a clear-cut situation.
It was something that was super interesting to me, because a friend of mine sent me a text saying, I don't even remember who it was, or I'd pull it up. They were watching the election news as well. And then it said, there was a poll that was on, and they didn't mean to send me this exact thing, but it was on in the background. And it said, 81% of people do not know someone with COVID and do not know someone who died with COVID.
I think that was CNN, right?
I think
that said that, 81%.
And then 19 knew someone who had passed away.
Right.
19%. And I thought that was so interesting. I'm like, we have a very large country that is a huge amount of people in major cities that do not know someone who has died of COVID. Or maybe it's middle of America. I'm not entirely sure, but.
And I only bring this up not to create a COVID conspiracy at all.
No. We're just talking.
I only bring this up because data can be manipulated. And the moment the election is confirmed, or the moment let's say the Biden becomes president, it wouldn't be hard to suddenly come back out and go, oh, we're relooking at all of this, and now we don't need quarantines and we don't need this. So if that happens, let's mark this on this podcast.
Wait, did we mark an earlier podcast?
Yes, we did.
That said, if the left wins, COVID's over.
And we're saying there's no, I think that
I can't remember. Do you remember what we said? I can't remember what we said. We made a prediction.
We did make some predictions, and we'll go back to those later.
I can go back and look, but I do remember you saying that it'll be interesting. Like you did your thing where it'll be interesting come November 4th if all of a sudden.
Well, I do think that Joe Biden would be more cautious about COVID,
which is what his public platform is on COVID.
Super conservative. Funny, it's interesting. The Democrats, super conservative, high quarantine, high mask, shutting down businesses. That's basically the platform in some ways, and then Trump's platform was free America, right? Everybody gets to go back to work.
We're not trying to deal with it anymore.
Everybody's going to go back to play. Well, let's just go back to life and let it happen. And that may have more effect on the outcome than, or the voting than we thought. But I just wanted to just lay out that what we see in the media, and I'm not even meaning that there's malintent, because people just have their own filters. And what we're hearing is affected by people's political positions, by their social views, their cultural influence. And that's why we have to have conversations like this and allow ourselves to be wrong and allow ourselves to keep changing our mind and getting more information, but not allowing ourselves to be limited in our thinking. Because right now, if you don't think a certain way, you're really going to be like burned at the stake.
Yeah, I do think this is interesting. So maybe if you're listening to this or you're watching this, let's do this in the comments on Instagram at Battle Ready Podcast, the IG. The most recent post will be of this episode. Comment and let us know, no matter who wins, do you feel safer in a country, in the United States, if, despite who wins, going back to completely normal life, no masks, no quarantine, full restaurants, back to normal, kids go to school, whatever it may be, movie theaters, churches, everything, but not for religious reasons, but just for like safety reasons. Do you feel comfortable enough going back to work in the same way that you used to? Or are you hesitant? On any level, are you hesitant? Do you need masks? Do we need to quarantine? Do we need to do homeschool? Do we need to work from home for a while? Like, I'm curious to hear what people think, like just non-politically, like, do you feel safe enough to go back? Because I will say, like, I feel fine going to a restaurant. I've been in restaurants. We were in Wyoming. You weren't, but you should have been. It was awesome. But we were back in restaurants. I didn't feel unsafe, but I was also very much distanced from the next table. We were together, like we were more than 10 feet away from the next table. Plenty of space. There is no reason. But then you're like, put your mask on. But then the moment you sit down, you take your mask off. So what is the difference between having your mask on between the door and the table and having your mask off while you're there and you're coughing and everyone's laughing and projectiles, spit, saliva things are flying into the atmosphere?
Thank you for that description.
but I do want to poll. And if you're polling, don't be obnoxious. Just say like, I feel safe or I don't feel safe, or like, I think masks should be a thing, or I think quarantine should be a thing.
Because you did a poll once and people started telling you you're irresponsible and you're a part of the problem just because you were asking people for a poll.
Yeah, and I'm always a part of the problem, for sure. I will always be a part of the problem.
But I was just on a plane for 5 hours and they filled every single seat.
Yeah, that's funny too,
right?
Isn't it?
And
it's like a nightclub on some of these airlines.
So there we were in economy in the tightest seats in the world. And how can we be sitting next to each other for 5 hours and then you can't sit in the restaurant for 1 hour?
Well, you have to wear a mask the whole time, right?
What's that?
You have to wear a mask the entire time on the flight, right?
You have to wear a mask the entire time.
But not all masks are equal.
It's true.
And we were on a plane together. I can't remember where we were going. Oh, I think I was flying back by myself. I'm not sure. But they were like, you all have to be more than 6 feet away. And I'm like, this is impossible. The whole plane is like 8 feet. Like, we're all within 6 feet of each other. Yeah. And people were just like so frustrated. And the woman and the stewardess was getting so mad at this one guy. And he's like, look, I'm a big boy. And I'm not 6 feet away from anyone. There's no way. Where do you want me to go? And he was being kind about it. They're having a dialogue, but she's like, I understand. It's a bit ridiculous because you're so tight with every. But I'm like, how are people supposed to sit 6 feet away when you're in 3 people in a row and you may not know everybody? It doesn't make sense. The rules do not apply everywhere.
Yeah, because flying to Dallas, that was economy, and we were like sardines. I flew to New Jersey. I was on business class. Thank you, Elisa.
I'm so sorry you had to fly economy.
But even there, it was a really small business class, and no one was 6 feet apart. Everyone was like 1 foot apart. And so I have to like wonder, if we really believe these things, why are we able to be so inconsistent in that process?
Yeah.
And of course, I don't want it to be consistent. I want to be able to fly. I want to be able to go to places. But I just think we need to like put this little note up here. If things begin to suddenly, almost instantly, in January, February begin to change the perspective, we should realize it's more political than it is environmental or biological or medical. And I'm concerned because I just want us to go back to the greatest amount of freedom we can, but I don't want to put people necessarily at risk. So here's the interesting thing: Mosaic, our community of faith, our church, yes. We just sent out how many masks? We just sent out thousands of masks with the Mosaic imprint on it to all the people who are part of our community that we had a mailing list for. And we sent them, I think, 5 packs, right? So there's like 5 per pack. We made by a company that some friends of mine own that made the masks for the MLS and the NBA. And one of the reasons I did that is because churches are oftentimes seen as irresponsible in this moment. They're seen as anti-science. And I wanted to, for us as a church to go, no, we care about you. We take this seriously, and we want to provide for you some really cool masks that might help you deal with this crisis just a little bit better. And it's kind of a beautiful way when you're wearing a mask to be like a witness of this community of faith known as Mosaic. So I want you to hear me that I'm not coming from a place where I'm irresponsible. We've really led our church in responsibility. People have been asking me, hey, when are you guys going to meet together? And I've said, we don't meet together just for Christians. We meet together for the city. And so we will never do anything where our city, Los Angeles especially, would feel we're irresponsible or insensitive to their well-being. And so we're trying to navigate that really, really carefully, even though I really miss that aspect of community. But all this is in the context of where are we now? And where we're right now is we have massive social distrust. And whether we like it or not, I'm a realist. I look at things and I go, of course there's some voter fraud, but I don't think that's new.
No, I don't. This is the funny thing.
I think there's probably been voter fraud since the beginning of this nation's inception.
It's small percentages.
Yeah.
No way. There's President George Bush. I am a fan of President George W. Bush. That is my guy. Is it HW? It's even HW.
No,
isn't
HW is his father.
It's W, just W, no H. He definitely stole Florida. That was definitely voter fraud. His brother was the governor of Florida. Are we talking? Look, we could say it's conspiracy, or we could say his brother was if my sister was the governor of Florida, she definitely wouldn't give me the president. That's for sure. But it's too.
She might make sure it leaned the other way.
Make sure it went the other way.
Well, okay. I don't want to make statements that we can't substantiate. And like
President George W. Bush, if you're hearing this, I would just love a hug. I like him so much.
And
I do.
Even like when you talk about journalistic manipulation.
Okay.
Jefferson, I think this is accurate.
Which Jefferson?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas.
Started a newspaper so that he could campaign against his opposition.
And so did Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, it's been going on for hundreds of years.
It is not.
Our founding fathers knew how to manipulate media and journalism and the news to skew political positions, to destroy other candidates, and to advance their own agendas. This is not new. We've been doing this from the beginning.
We were talking about this last night, Brian. Fox News doesn't like Trump.
They're over him a little bit.
No, they've been over him. Do you remember 4 years? I mean, that's the whole Megyn Kelly thing.
That's for sure.
They did not want him elected 4 years ago. All I'm saying is, well, where do we want to go from here?
You're saying that, Fox definitely hasn't liked Trump.
Fox hasn't liked Trump. But you might need to take after Thomas Jefferson.
Except Sean Hannity, he seems to really
Sean Hannity does really seem to like him.
Right,
but Tucker Carlson doesn't really favor Trump, or does he?
He does.
I haven't listened to much.
I think so.
He's number one on television.
So? Yeah. All that to say that we're in the middle of a tornado. It's a cultural tornado. And frankly, what we need to realize is far more important than Joe Biden or Donald Trump is confidence in America's democratic system.
Which is an interesting thought. Can I something parenthetical thought? We have a Russian friend who I love, Sasha.
Yeah.
But we were sitting down, and it was the first time in my life, to be honest, because I'm such a patriotic, loyal person. Where he's not Russian. I guess he's part Russian. He's
Moldova. Yeah. His wife is Russian.
Russian adjacent. And he was the first person that ever said this to me. And he said, "Oh, you are the only one who thinks, I forget that Americans think the U.S. is perfect. That the U.S. is always the good guy." He goes, when you're in Eastern Europe, because Russia's the bad guy sometimes. China's the bad guy sometimes. And you definitely know America is the bad guy sometimes. And he's like, we have such a more clear perspective of the world. He's like, coming from a small country who gets to watch all these giants fight it out politically or in the media or XYZ. And it was like a hero had fallen in my mind of, oh no, you're right. Like I can't just look at things from America as perfect. I have to look at things that there's probably just as much corruption. We just don't bring it to light.
Yeah, I mean, we're really upset. We have this righteous indignation that Russia and other countries are trying to affect our election. Are we actually saying as a nation that we do not systematically and perpetually try to affect other nations' elections?
I would love for you to, at this moment, Google what has been going on in Central America for the last 80 years in El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama.
Or even Russia. And the reality
is Or China and Africa.
Look, I just think that this is a big boy game. Nations have been affecting nations for a long time. And now we're just like pulling the blanket off going, oh no.
Oh, we're here too.
And let's not get upset if suddenly other nations are getting better at it than us. But the reality is that...
Well, the reality is that we're becoming aware for the first time.
Yeah. And this is where I am an optimist, because I come from another country and I know how hard it is to create what this country has actually created. Like, I think that even given imperfect country, imperfect political system, imperfect voting system, I'm pretty confident the right candidate will be elected.
Well, I think it's what you said the last time, is that we can create a great world with either one of them.
Yeah.
We already live in such an amazing country. Yeah. Yes, there's flaws. Yes, there's things, just critiques. But either candidate is better than some of the places in the world where you don't get to vote. You don't get to voice your opinion. What we are doing now is an American right that it is not a human right, it is an American right. Because all humanity does not have this ability to critique its own government and to not be tracked down in XYZ. So with all of these things that we're saying, it is we're living in the same right and honor and gifting of just being able to have the conversation about it.
It's amazing. Here we are in the middle of a presidential
pandemic
crisis. No, I'm just
a presidential pandemic.
This is, and we don't know who our next president's going to be. Technically,
Michelle Obama, are you out there? Can you hear me?
And
please come back.
But
I don't agree with her policies, but I love her, so don't critique me. Don't come at me right now.
But
Brian.
Here's the thing, though. I just take a deep breath. You still got up this morning, and there is no militia or no military at your door.
Unless you're in Portland.
You could still go get your coffee.
Yes.
You could still take a walk.
Yes, I did this morning, actually, 2.5 hours.
And even if life is not everything you hope it should be, you can take a deep breath and you can realize you're alive and you're free. And so I just want to kind of step back and realize there's a battle going on, but we're going to get through it. And there'll be a few lawsuits along the way, but I actually have confidence that the Supreme Court, if it gets to it, will ethically and appropriately deal with the issues that are there. I have confidence that people across the nation have not tried to steal an election. I think to indict thousands upon thousands of Americans who are trying to help the election process take place is worse than your candidate losing. See, I actually think not working together to create a great American democratic process is going to be our downfall, not which candidate is president. So I want us to be able to celebrate that we can freely choose our Senate, our House. We freely choose our president. And then if you don't like what happened, spend 4 years raising up better candidates. Spend 4 years coming up with better ideas. Spend 4 years developing a better party, and stop blaming everyone else that you didn't win. Ask yourself the question, why didn't I spend the 4 years developing a better message for the American people? So that's my thoughts on this.
I had so many things to say, but then you feel like you just closed this out so well. I think we're done. I liked this. I think it's a bit of a random podcast episode, but I kind of like it. It's like the aftermath.
I mean, we're in a random country right now.
We're on a random country. We're in the aftermath of it all, and I think it's kind of interesting. And there's a lot of stuff we're not talking about right now that we've been talking about that we don't need to go into in this podcast, but there's a lot going on in the world, whether it's politicians, pastors, organizations, voting pandemics, actual pandemics. There's a lot happening. There is a heaviness to this thing. But I did want to talk about. You want to say something? No,
please go ahead.
I did want to talk about this. I got acupuncture for the first time last night. It sounds random. I've just been having back issues, so I went and got you sent me to this acupuncturist, and she's probably in her 50s, Chinese immigrant. Incredible woman, Jenny.
She's a medical doctor from China who became an acupuncture specialist in the States.
Yes. And it's awesome because I went to this chiropractor and she works out of the chiropractor office. And like everyone was like, I listen to Battle Ready. I don't believe in God. Awesome. Definitely don't believe in God, but I listen to Battle Ready. And I'm like, do you come to Mosaic? And they're like, we loved the end of democracy. We loved the end of democracy. And she's sticking little needles, I don't even know what they look like, into my neck. And she's like, and she is the sweetest. She's like so motherly. She's like, are you okay? Bah. Are you okay? Bah. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Please stop the needle thing with my back. And she goes, who do you want to win? I said, I'm really open because I don't know which way to go. As a new friend, that's not the way we start the relationship.
Yeah.
And she goes, I come from a country that was socialist communist, and I don't know if the younger generation here understands what that looks like. And it was, and I'm just in there going, I cannot move because there's all these needles in my back, in my neck. And I'm just wanted to sit there and go, can you please just expound upon that? She was like, I'll see you in 20 minutes. and it was fascinating because for me, it changed, like, whatever, I lean left or right in certain things, but for me, it was really interesting because like, I don't know if we look to the other countries and to the people that come from other countries to our country to ask why they left where they left and why that's funny, why they left where they left. That's not what I meant, but why they came to this country and what they're bringing and what they're leaving. And for me, it was such an eye-opening moment going, you know, whichever candidate it may be, we do need to still keep the United States of America, and that will look a different way each and every election, but that's kind of the beauty of it, isn't it? That this country continues to evolve, and yet it rises above any ideals and policies to be the transcendent thing that we are, a free nation. And we can. It's crazy that as a country, the biggest thing we're complaining about is how free are we? Like overall, if Biden taxes us more, if there's universal health care, if there's a wall, which the funny thing about the wall in Mexico thing is every Mexican that I know that I'm friends with is like, we don't walk across the border, man, we fly. And it's like a laughing thing in Mexico. Do we let these things get in the way of the fact that like we are arguing over how free we are? If we are a free country and a free people, we get to think freely, speak freely, live freely. And are we squandering it or wasting it?
Yeah, I think that the conversations that will elevate us is when we talk about, as free people, how do we take on social responsibility to make sure everyone has an opportunity for a better life, to live in a better world.
Were we talking about this? About like, oh no, I wasn't talking about this with you. I was rambling with someone, and I don't even know if it made sense, but I was saying we don't live in a first world country. Because we say we live in a first world country, but really first world is where no one has to do anything. No one's dying of homelessness and hunger. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
like that's like our ability to achieve a level of humanity where the entire community goes to someone who's in need, which is the idea of universal healthcare and these different things, but we don't have the economic structure to actually back that in certain ways. But I was having this argument of going like, until the United States is the first country that goes, every immigrant can come because this is a better country when you're here because we see the value that you bring and what this country brings to you, and no one dies because of homelessness, no one's dying because of drugs, no one's dying because of X, Y, Z. That is the first world country. Like that is the level, and I mean, you may disagree with this, we may cut this out.
No.
But I just had this thought of going like, no, the first world country is that ability to go, as a society, we will look at ourselves like an actual body and go, okay, there's something sick inside of us, so we need to actually take it, fix it, heal it, help it recover, physical therapy, whatever it may be, and then adjust the next thing. It's a never-ending process of fixing and regulating and helping. But we're in a place still where we fight over what is the left arm going to do versus the right arm, and how are we going to treat each and every single muscle in our body.
Yeah. Yeah, here's I guess here's my invitation to everyone who can make a difference on the right. Yeah.
Oh, you're skipping what I just said.
No, I think what you said is really important.
Okay.
Because if you don't believe in socialism, then come back with policies that give everyone who's struggling with poverty, everyone who's hungry, everyone who isn't living the benefit of, quote, a first what is it called?
First world
country, giving them the opportunity in our nation to leave a third world kind of environment into a first world opportunity. I'm actually just writing what you said. That I think instead of picking flashpoint policies like abortion, be more holistic and come back with strategies that deal with the issues of poverty, of racism, of injustice, so that everyone in our nation has an opportunity to know their children are going to be well educated, to know that their kids are going to get to eat, to know they're going to have a job that pays a reasonable wage. And I would love to see, I'm kind of hopeful, I would love to see Republicans go, we're going to tackle some of the biggest social problems in America, and we're going to come up with a philosophy that we think could actually create a better world for everyone.
Yeah, why can't we? Yeah, and this is bipartisanship, whatever it is, but why can't we just learn from the other side?
Yeah.
Like what? I don't like AOC. Like I definitely don't like AOC. Like there's probably not a lot I like about her, except for that she's a living, breathing human, and I love that. But why aren't we having dialogue? She's one of the more intelligent human beings you will ever listen to. Why can't she sit with the other side and we watch this thing combust? I imagine if you put her in a combination of other minds, some of the most remarkable things would ever be created. Mm-hmm. But we divide things, and I think we divide ourselves, and we end up like, there's someone commented on the Instagram like something about a civil war. I'm like in our country, like we'll do it again. I'm like, who's we, bro? We are not doing a civil war. We good. This is not the Avengers. This is also not the 1800s. Is that when it happened the last time? 1700s, 1800s?
Yeah,
we're not going to war with ourselves.
I if I could do like a soul check for myself, one of the things I told Kim is, I don't know why, but I have a natural, like, I guess, leaning that I think that if Trump wins, we're going to have a lot of rioting and a lot of violence. But if Biden wins, we will not have a lot of rioting and a lot of violence. And so part of me was like, I just hope Biden wins just so we don't have all the rioting and violence. And I'm going, that's not actually a good posture, because that's not the reason you should want someone to win, so that that side doesn't respond negatively. And so I would throw this out because, in a few days, we're going to know. Things are going to really settle. And whether you're on the right or the left, if you lose, if you start responding through violence and destructive choices, that's not because the other side is evil. It's because you are making destructive choices.
You are evil.
You're making evil choices. And I would say that to the right or to the left, Like we've got to learn how to, one, grow up, be mature adults, see ourselves as a part of a larger social community where we have responsibility. And if you're on one side and you win, I hope that the other side chooses the battle of ideas. And then, and whether it's right or left, the way to win the future is the battle of ideas. And I think that's one of the reasons I really admire this country, is because we do have an opportunity here to keep advancing better ideas. And by the way, like, equality is a better idea. A world where every person is valued is a better idea. A world where everyone has a chance to work and to eat and to thrive, that's a better idea. See, I think the human ideals are better ideas. And we have a rare opportunity in this nation to keep advancing the better ideas.
I love that. With that, we could talk forever, but with that, I think we should close it out. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So incredible. One, who knows what will happen when this podcast is released?
Right.
But we are so grateful that you listen and that you're with us and that you are watching and you're letting us into your homes, into your lives, into your cars, and having this conversation with us twice a week. We are so grateful. We want you to join us at the conference, Mosaic Conference. We don't really advertise Mosaic too much. We talk about it as our life, but it's our church, it's our home. So if you're you want to be a part of it, mosaicconference.com. Oh, great. I got it right on the first time.
Register today and join us tomorrow.
Yeah, join us tomorrow. So excited. Will it be on can you delay and watch it whenever you want? I don't know. To be honest, most of the time we take it down. So you got to watch it.
Pick it up on Saturday because there's no guarantee it's going to stay up.
Yes. And then the second thing is you can rate this podcast. You can review this podcast. Honestly, it means the world to us. You send us so many emails. So if you send us an email, one, thank you. I'm about 190 emails behind, and I promise you I answer about 10 to 20 of them a day. And so I took 1 week off, and it was the bane of my existence because I'm so far behind. So send us an email, but also rate and review the podcast. We're so grateful. We're so grateful for the encouragement, the support, the DMs, the messages, all of it.
And I just wanted to thank everyone because I was reading the comments from our last podcast. And even the people who disagree with us, they were so respectful, insightful, kind, gracious, and so many were encouraging.
Yeah.
And I just want to take a moment and thank you guys because you're creating a culture for the Battle Ready community that is rare in the world.
Yeah, I do normally get encouraging texts from a few people that I did not get encouraging texts from this week. Not you. I'm not looking at you. I'm just looking at you in general. But that was interesting because I know that what I said definitely offended some people, but I was really grateful the fact that some people, instead of coming at me, will at some point I'm sure we'll have a conversation. And then some people came at me but 99% of the response was positive. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it wasn't people saying I agree with you, it was people saying, hey, I really disagree with you. I voted the complete opposite way. But I'm glad you spoke up about it. I'm glad you said something. So I love this conversation. And I think we're going to keep growing, keep building it.
And we made a commitment.
What?
Battle Ready is the conversation you wished was happening. Here it is.
Oh, that is so good. Battle Ready, the conversation you wish was happening.
Yeah, it's like I think earlier was the conversation you always wanted to, to have happen, and like we're trying to make that happen.
You have the permission to disagree, but we reserve the right to change our minds. So we will see you on Tuesday with our next episode. And also our Hillsong Channel show is starting back up.
Oh, that's right.
Hillsong Channel.
Starting this weekend.
It's not going to release this weekend, but we're filming this week.
I think it is going to release this weekend. That's why they want us to talk about the election.
Are we going to change our podcast schedule because of that?
Probably not. Just double the work. What? No way. No way. We got to do this for the people, for the friends, for the fam.
All right, poll. Do you want Battle Ready once a week or do you want it twice a week? Tuesday and Friday?
Or would you like it
or Friday?
Every day of the week? Battle Ready breakfast.
That's not an option. Poll.
Goodbye.
All right. Have a great week.